Hello, I'm Nick, and today I'm joined by Ziggy Hickson. Uh, Welcome to another episode of Screen Peeking, a show where we talk about everything video game related. Today is September 11th, 2020, and today we'll be discussing 6 topics. Ziggy, how have you been doing?
I've been doing good. It's a little interesting down here in Oregon. The sky out my window is very orange. I'm getting kind of tired of that color orange. It's been a few days. um,
Yeah,
but other than that, I mean, I've been stuck inside. Haven't been playing a lot of games. There was, I know, a bit of a like evacuation scare for my town, so I had like a
oh,
lot of my
really?
consoles packed up and ready to go. Yeah, I hooked my PC back up. Um, but other than that, yeah, things have been a little hectic. But I mean, it's 2020. I don't know what to expect anymore, other than a little hectic. So
Yeah, fair enough. You got a go bag ready with your computer. Just have to throw it in, and that's
yeah,
it.
yeah, pretty much.
Funny. Yeah, I'm glad that you're good and okay for now, at least. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
some of those pictures were crazy. It's just a little smoky where I am, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's glad you're okay. I guess we should start by discussing the Ubisoft Forward that just happened. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
I think it was
So weird.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was yesterday. It feels like so long ago now for me. But yeah, today I want to go through a few of the games that they were announcing. Not everything, but a few of the ones that I found interesting. Um, I know the first one I was looking forward to seeing was Immortals: Phoenix Rising. Uh,
Hmm.
I've been interested in
Terrible
that
name.
since. Yep,
God awful name.
nice. Um, since it was
Oh,
called Gods and Monsters, I thought I'm really interested in this. It totally looks like it's going to be a similar to Zelda Breath of the Wild kind of game, and I was really excited to find out more about it. And then of course it's just a little trailer, and it's been over a year, and I was starting to go, come on, like I just want to, I want to see what this
yeah.
game's like. And then they had that leaked demo on Stadia for a little bit, and I saw a little bit of that, but then I didn't want to watch too much because I didn't want to kind of ruin it for me and start to have expectations that the game would be like that when it's alpha or something.
Hmm.
So now seeing what it looks like, I'm gonna say I'm strongly interested. The main thing that pulls me away from the gameplay I've seen is the fact I'm just not a fan of the UI. I'm not a
Yeah. No,
fan
the
of the
UI is
big
terrible.
buttons and the way the stamina looks and the weird like notches on the side. And for me, like I think the game looks like it'll be fun to play. And from what I've heard from people, it seems like it plays kind of like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I loved the way that played, where you like hold a button down to get your 4 options for abilities, and you those with your combat, or you can just use your like light attack or heavy attack, and then both like on controller, it's like L1 R1 or left bumper right bumper to like parry at the right time. I found that super fun in Odyssey, so I'm down for that. I don't need it to be combat like Zelda Breath of the Wild, and don't need your weapons to break or anything like that. Then seeing like the RPG elements of like different armor and weapons that kind of boost different stats and do extra things, that all looks cool. But then the things they did pull from Zelda, very similar art style, very similar grass, very
Yeah.
similar, the open world, being able to glide, being able to climb anything as long as you have the stamina, and the shrines or diving into the world shrines. All that stuff is very similar, of course, but yeah, that's what makes me kind of more excited to play it. Is that I'm down for a game that could potentially spend or cause me to spend about 100 hours or in it, and it's coming out in December 3rd, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember. My impressions of the game I think were very different from yours cuz I also was optimistic about the game. I was pretty excited from that reveal. I liked just the way it looked. I mean, obviously like that initial reveal, the first thing a lot of people thought was like, "Oh, it's Ubisoft's Breath of the Wild." Like, cool. A
Yeah,
lot of games are doing that now. They're kind of going off that. What I didn't expect is just kind of how hard they went and how obvious it was with kind of, I mean, I don't want to say ripping off, but like taking elements from Breath of the Wild and using it there. Like the wings of Icarus, or
yeah,
not Icarus, Daedalus are like exactly the same as the glider, except they don't seem as fun.
and you can't
And the
glide
open
backwards.
world looks, yeah, the open world looks like Breath of the Wilds, but not as cool. Like
Hmm.
so much of the stuff it does, it looks like it's trying so hard. Well, okay. The way I can word it best is, do you remember when Breath of the Wild's like gameplay kind of got announced and a lot of people were like, "Oh shit, like this looks like Zelda's just kind of becoming like a weird Assassin's Creed like Ubisoft game." Like I don't like that. Like that's not the direction I want for this series. Before we realized like how different it actually was from that
How
formula.
Nintendo it was.
Yeah, and this game kind of seems like what we all feared Breath of the Wild would end up being in a way. Like it seems like Breath of the Wild, like in some of the cool parts from Breath of the Wild, but not as good. But it also seems like a lot of the stuff that really turns me off from like Assassin's Creed and other Ubisoft games, like um, I don't know, like so, I don't know, so many things just felt like Breath of the Wild, but like without the charm of Breath of the Wild. Like even the art style really did not look that great to me. Like it looked fine, but Breath of the Wild just looked so much better. And it's hard, like it's so hard
I
because
don't know
you're
about better,
comparing.
but different. Yeah.
I'm like, it will because you're comparing one of my favorite games of all time, what I
Yeah.
consider
Yeah.
to be like the best game ever made, to another game. So obviously, it's like that's a pretty fucking hard comparison. So I'm trying not to be too hard on it, but like it's so much of it like but when they're inviting that comparison, it's hard to not feel that way because they
Yeah.
absolutely are like. And it's I don't know, like watching because IGN put out like a 20-minute gameplay reveal
Oh, I haven't
or a
seen that.
demo. Yeah, and like from the gameplay they showed in the trailers, like I thought it looked fine, but then watching that I was like, "Ooh, this is like the flying just looks weird and janky. The level design and like the puzzle design doesn't look nearly as good as Zelda's." Um which I mean again, like it's a high bar, but I don't know, I
I want
think
to
it'll be
pause you there for a
fine.
second though, because Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite games of all time. It's not my number one, but it's up there, right?
Mhm.
And I would say they have 120 shrines. When you're talking about the puzzles in Zelda Breath of the Wild being so good in general, there are a bunch in there that are pretty lame. They're
Yeah, I
not
mean, there's
very
a few in there that aren't
challenging.
good, but when you
So
have the puzzle that they show, like the puzzles they show in that like the what is supposed to be like the best part bit of your game that you're showing like the best thing to show you like you wouldn't want just kind of the like D tier like it's fine, it's a throwaway shrine, because I agree some of the shrines aren't great, but like
mhm.
with like watching the puzzle in there, like there's like those few steps to puzzles where it's like you identify what you're trying to do, you figure out how to do it, and then you actually execute it. Like it when like looking at that puzzle and even the person playing in that demo, like it looked like they didn't even know what they were trying to do for a while. Like they didn't even know what the goal was. And that's like, ooh, like that's like that's a really bad sign for puzzle design, you know? And it's I don't know, it's like it's so I really don't want to be too hard. I think it will be a fine game. I think it'll be a perfectly fine 7 or 8 out of 10. Like it's good. It's a Ubisoft game. It's about what I would expect. Um but when they're so directly inviting comparisons to Zelda, it's like it's I don't know. Like I've already played Zelda.
Yeah,
I'm not super down to play Zelda again, but not as good, you know?
yeah. I'm only defending it because I think it needs somebody to defend it here. But but no, I agree that I don't think it's going to be, like, for us at least, it won't be as good as Zelda Breath of the Wild. For
Mhm.
me, I was thinking about how it might be more accessible though for some people who play or tried Zelda and maybe it wasn't for them for multiple different reasons. Maybe it was too challenging. I mean, my default was to laugh at people who found it challenging, but at the same time, like, it's true, some people find that game too hard right at the beginning because
Mhm.
you just want to like get used to the combat maybe and learn something, but your weapon breaks after 4 hits every time and you're maybe not used to that type of game. You have to learn, oh, I have to go and collect these things, but I can't find anything, or I can't find enough stuff to create a potion or whatever, or I don't even understand how to make potions yet. And maybe they're just finding it too challenging at the beginning. Maybe having a game that is a little bit more I'm not saying it's like directed for people who don't know how to play games or anything like that. It's just like this might be a more accessible way to play a game that's similar to Zelda Breath of the Wild, but you're not going to be as challenged with you're engaging in a fight and now you can't do it
Mhm.
kind of thing. I don't
Mhm.
know, that was something I've heard from some people, that they found the game to Zelda too hard, and
Mhm.
that's why they didn't want to do it. Taylor is one of them, and
Mhm.
so this might be a perfect kind of game that if she wants to do that kind of exploring and create her own character and do that, this might be better for her. But
Mhm.
I'm gonna turn all the UI off when I do get the
Oh
game.
god. Yeah, no, like I think the UI is actually a really great example for me of why I'm kind of turned off by it. Like because it's so like part of what made Breath of the Wild so beautiful and so wonderful to play is just how like simple it is cuz it's so much harder
Hmm.
to design a really really simple game than a really complex game. And like Breath of the Wild was just like it wasn't bloated. I mean, it had a shit ton of content, but I still don't think it was bloated in its design. Like everything just felt purposeful. Like there was almost no UI and like almost no music, and
Hmm.
like everything was just so minimal and nice. And then when you look at this, it's just like there's so much color and so much like stuff on the screen. Or like they had pretty much the identical shot, in the opening of Breath of the Wild, where he like runs up the hill and then the camera pans out and shows like the castle and all like the fields and stuff.
Yeah.
And they had like the same shot there, but it just looked cluttered as hell. Like there was that, but then there was just monsters fucking everywhere and like these big things, and it was just kind of like cluttered to look at, which is, I mean, again, that's not I like that's kind of what turns me off from Assassin's Creed. I know a lot of people love that stuff, and it
Hmm.
seems very much like Origin, um, with sort of a Breath of the Wild. I mean, I don't want to say Breath of the Wild skin. That sounds like I'm ragging on a bit much. It seems like if you like Odyssey, you'll like this game. Maybe like less so than if you like Breath of the Wild, you like this game. Like it seems
Yeah.
much more in that like Assassin's Creed open world RPG with the traditional conventions of an open world RPG and that sort of thing, just with some elements of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. Two more notes that I wanted to say is that like with their trailer for this Mortals Phoenix Rising, I noticed the music was like, what was it? Like it was someone singing.
Oh god, the music
It
was
was
so
terrible.
off.
Some
Yeah,
like I don't know. It wasn't it wasn't a soundtrack from the game or anything like Zelda's was
yeah.
when you had the first trailer. And I feel like that's a big
Hmm.
part too. It's like it gives you that feeling of excitement and wonder and all that stuff. And
Hmm.
then you see this and
Yeah.
it's like
Well, it
it
felt
was
like the
just
kind of
like
trailer you see, or the kind of song you'd see in just every other, like a million other game
or a
trailers, like,
movie.
and not the reveal trailers, the like TV spot trailers where they just
Yeah.
have like some generic song over like the action scenes, like, "Whoa, look, it's fun, it's cool, whatever. This will appeal to the broadest audience humanly possible,"
Hmm.
instead of like actually setting what the tone is of that game. Because having like I mean, it's Greek, there's gods, there's monsters. That was a better title for the game, but then, you're like hero, and then it just had this weird sort of like pop song in the background, which is like, that's not really like the tone that this game seems to be going for. So yeah, that was weird. Um,
Yeah, and then the other thing I wanted to mention um about the game was like the character, the Phoenix, I guess, character.
mhm.
I know you can customize them or her, they, or whatever, but that character themselves, they looked separate from the world, in my opinion. I actually thought the world
Yeah.
and I thought the enemies actually did look cool. I thought they did look
Mhm.
nice, but I thought your character looked too much like a a custom generic custom character. You got the like I don't know. It just looked like they didn't. I don't know if it was the texture or what
It
it
was
was,
like that sort
but it
of
looked
like
so
Xbox
separate.
avatar type thing,
It looked
where
like
it's
they didn't
yeah.
belong in the world for some reason. And like
Mhm.
Link or any of the characters in Breath of the Wild look like they're a part of the world. Whether I don't know if it's like a graphics thing, I don't know if it's an art thing, but
I think it seems
it's
very much like art direction. Like when I said Breath of the Wild looked a lot better, for me it's just art direction. Like they're definitely different art styles, but I think Breath of the Wild is just so much more consistent. Like a lot of the enemy types looked like they were from different games. Like you said, the character models
mhm.
didn't like the character model didn't really fit in the world. Like there'd be like a smoke effect that was like cell shaded and looked super cartoony, and then other stuff that seemed like it was trying to be realistic. Like
Yeah.
it seemed like I know this game sort of restarted development a little bit through,
Yep.
like, and I part of me like it really seems like a lot of the stuff in there was just pulled from how the game used to look over, and so it's this weird like mix of art styles that kind of clashes with each other sometimes.
Yep. I watching it, I and this was the other part to my second part, or second point, was that it looks to me because I was watching this going, okay, Assassin's Creed Odyssey stuff. I think they pulled a lot of assets from Odyssey for this, and I
Hmm.
think they pulled a lot. And I know, and like the thing that made me start thinking that originally was the Leap Stadia demo, and how they had the compass at the top of the screen that was from Odyssey. And like, okay, cool, like that's fine. You would do that for a alpha, like for just testing things and whatever. Who cares?
Mhm.
But like obviously, if you're just replacing something with a different art or a different look, the main one that got me for this trailer, watch back to where I think it's in the it might just be the gameplay demo somewhere, but like I think it was at the end of the Ubisoft Forward when they're showing like a little bit of gameplay. But you see Phoenix, she in this case, like she's flying forward, and then she dives down, and then it's like flying forward again, and it totally made me think of you play Assassin's Creed Origins or Odyssey, and you play as the Hawk, and you're gliding
Mhm.
slowly forward, and then you can press a trigger, but the trigger on the controller, and you'll do a dive bomb, and you go straight down, and then you can let go, and you kind of glide again. And it made me think: am I just when you jump off? Are you just like using the Hawk, whatever it's called, the
Yeah.
animations, and like kind of just re-rigging your character to that? Because you got the wings going, you got the diving and everything, and I was like, that would be
Yeah.
weird. And then you see obviously with the hold the button down to get your abilities in the corner of the screen, so you can select those. That's all the same. Then you got your equipment menu, which obviously could be rearranged, but you still have an equipment menu. You still got your map. You still got there's just a lot of that stuff where I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, yeah, this is
Mhm.
pretty much Odyssey, but it's reskinned, and
Mhm.
they've added an actual, probably, I'm guessing it's not going to be as big as Odyssey, I hope. But like an open world
Mhm.
that's like manageable with different regions that have different environments and stuff. I don't know.
Mhm.
That was just like my vibe when I was watching the trailer and or the gameplay after. I was like, oh, I see a lot of things being used here, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but it totally looked like that to me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Also at the event, the like Riders Republic was there. I think that was a new game, right? That they revealed.
Yeah, I have nothing to say
Um,
about that one.
I thought it looked cool. Like I played a bit of Steep when it came out, and this looks really similar to Steep, and then it's like open world. I'm guessing you can do a bunch of different stuff in it. It looks fun. It looks like it'll be fun for a few hours. I wouldn't pay $60 for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the Prince of Persia remake, I have absolutely no affinity for that series, so that didn't really do anything for me.
Me too.
Um,
Sorry, people who care.
yeah, I just haven't played a Prince of Persia game, so I don't really have an opinion. Scott Pilgrim coming back though, I'm very excited for. I'm really really excited about that because that's a game I haven't played. I fucking love that movie though. Like, and I
Really?
haven't read the comics either. Yeah, but the Scott Pilgrim Saves the World movie, like, I adore that movie. Edgar Wright is like one of my favorite directors. Um, and then the game got taken down like a while ago from digital stores because of like its license ran out or something,
Yeah.
which is too bad because I know a lot of people really love it. So the fact that they're bringing it back for the 10th anniversary makes me so happy because I want to finally play it. So I'm excited about that. Then you have down Assassin's Creed launching November 10th with
Yeah,
the
for
Xbox.
Valhalla.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then free upgrade from the Xbox One to Series X or S.
Yes,
Um,
I think that's really interesting.
mhm.
Or good.
They announced
It's
that
good.
before though, right?
Yeah, this is just that wasn't for the Ubisoft
Yeah,
Forward.
yeah.
That's just me just saying, like, I want to just say kudos to Ubisoft for making their
Hmm.
Xbox One or PS4 version, or I don't actually know about the PS4 one, but I saw the Xbox One version can be upgraded to
Hmm.
Series S or X for free, and
Hmm.
I think that's how it should be. Um, but that's something that I was going to talk about. Gonna make fun of myself for a second here. Last week's episode, I started out by saying I want to talk about backwards compatibility standard and stuff, and said, "Oh, we're going to talk about that later." And so far, in 2 episodes that we've done, I've said we were going to talk about something at the beginning of the show, and we didn't get to it. So I'm determined to make sure we talk about everything today. So I made sure not to say what we're going to talk about at the beginning this time, but I definitely want to address
No false promises.
the no back or the backwards compatibility from last week. But yeah, Hyrule Warriors 2 was also announced, and you seemed very excited about that. So why don't you tell me how
Yeah,
excited you are?
I am hyped for this. So I never played Hyrule Warriors 1. To be fair, I have never actually played a Musou game. Like in the Dynasty Warrior games and stuff. I always thought they looked interesting, but I just never really wanted to take the jump. What
Yep.
makes me really excited for this though is that it's a prequel to Breath of the Wild. It's not like Hyrule Warriors 1 where it was just sort of like, oh, it's characters you like, shit's happening. I don't know, put them in a game, kill some moblins, it's fine. Um, and then but this I just really really like what they're doing with the story. The fact that it's about like the big calamity that happened. God, a lot of Breath of the Wild on this episode. Um, I uh like I don't know,
Nothing wrong with
just the
that.
time period. Yeah, the time period it's set in is really really cool to me. The fact that you're playing like as the champions and being with all those characters that are dead by the time. I don't know, it's almost like a Breath of the Wild reach in a way, where
Yeah, I
like
guess so.
because
Yeah.
you know how it ends. Like you know it ends in tragedy. You know all these characters you're going to be playing with in this game are going to die except for Zelda and Link. And so starting a game and knowing that, like if they have like actual cutscenes in this game and do something with the story, which I think they will, um I'm really really excited for something like that. Even if it, and they like didn't even put Zelda in the name, so they're definitely separating it from the game. And I appreciated that they also still like addressed Breath of the Wild 2. They're like, hey, it's coming, you'll get more soon. But like, and it's not like a Nintendo developed thing, it's just licensed and published. Um
And it's
which
canon,
Yeah, it's canon, yeah, which I
which is
like that
nice.
Muso games are finally becoming canon. Like I just really appreciate that for like a Zelda licensed game, this isn't a throwaway thing. Like it is a genuinely canon. It's going to add meaningful story content,
Hmm.
a story content that I wanted more of in the base game. Like I wish there was more of those flashback cutscenes to the calamity in Breath of the Wild, because I think that time period is just really interesting. So I'm super
Absolutely.
super excited to play this, and I mean it's mostly just a story. The gameplay will probably be kind of whatever for me, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. For me, I just want to watch any cutscenes there are, anything important for
Mhm.
the story, and I'll watch someone else play because I don't want to spend my time playing that game. That's just my
Mhm.
opinion on it. That's fine. I just
Yeah.
it doesn't look fun.
No, you
But
Muso games are definitely not for everyone. Like it is a lot of button mashing and like I don't know. That's not engaging to a lot of people, but
flashy
yeah,
actions.
that's definitely fair.
Yeah. So, uh, I want to, before I forget again, let's address backwards compatibility in games, and not just backwards compatibility, but a mixture of that and like how Xbox is doing their um, smart delivery stuff and just games, whether they can be played. So let's say I'm buying a game right now on the Series X or S, whatever, and Xbox makes a new console. Should it be playable on the new console? And is that a fair expectation for people? Because
Mhm.
some people just go, "Oh, well, that makes sense." PlayStation 5. They're not going to play every single PlayStation 4 game, but they'll play most of them. They'll play all the ones you probably care about. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But there's people that will get really fiery about it one way or another. So I'm just wanting to
Mhm.
address the fact, like, should that be an expectation? Should publishers, developers, and uh, companies all just embrace the fact that, hey, if you make a game that's just out, if you want more people to buy the game after it's come out, make some content for it that looks cool that you can just bundle with the game or whatever. So I don't know.
Mhm.
You
Yeah. So short answer, yes. Like I think it's in today's day and age where consoles are just PCs, like there's really no reason why full backwards compatibility shouldn't be a thing. Like they run on essentially just PC hardware. It's not like going from the PS3 to the PS4 where the PS3
like,
had some
yeah,
weird fucking
yeah,
architecture that was really hard to emulate. And
exactly.
so like yeah, it makes sense it wouldn't impact. I don't like it. I wish they did. Like that's one of the things I really like about the Xbox One is that you could play Xbox 360 games, like most of them. Um uh and so yeah, it's kind of annoying that PlayStation won't just give you full PS4 backwards compatibility like that. It seemed be like they can. It's not that difficult. If and
Well,
so
it might be pretty difficult. It might just not that they can't either. You're
I
right. I
guess,
think it's just
but
the amount of time and
they
money it
yeah,
would
they
take.
can.
Is it worth it
And
for them?
yeah. I wish they would though, because like I know for me the Xbox One was the first like non Nintendo console that I owned, and so I didn't play a lot of Xbox 360 games. Like
Mm.
I know like Mass Effect is a big one that I played super super late, and I only played all those games because of backwards compatibility. Um, and so for people who are only getting into gaming with this next generation, like same thing for them. Like if they want to play, I was gonna say like God of War, but that will almost certainly be backwards compatible. I'm trying to think of like PS games that weren't as popular on the PS5 that might not be in that top thing, but are still absolutely worth playing. Because I think they only said it's like the top 100 games or something, and that's not that many in the grand scheme of every PS5 game. Um, and yeah,
As long as
it's
Bloodborne's in there, that's all I care about.
yeah. I don't know. Like I just wish they would, and maybe that's an unrealistic expectation, but I don't think it is because like Xbox has been doing it and they're continuing to do it, and I don't see why Sony can't, you know? And
Yeah.
as for like remasters and stuff, I don't think that's necessarily as necessary, like because that's just up to the individual developers if they want to package it up and bundle it again. Um they like with what Control is doing. I actually wasn't that peeved by it. It just felt like the traditional way of doing things where, you just make like a Game of the Year edition or Ultimate edition or whatever and then put it on the next generation with all the DLC so people can play it. It just felt like that, but they had a weird way of messaging it. Um
Yeah, so with that Control thing, like that, I actually do think that's a problem. I do think that's a big deal. I
mhm,
think I think that people have a right to sell their game however they want,
mhm,
but they deserve whatever whatever way people react to it.
mhm,
And I think that a smart choice would have been to just say, hey, you already bought the game, you supported us. Like, you're literally only punishing the people who supported you from the beginning.
mhm.
If
I
if
think
no one
they
bought
could
their
have.
game, do you think they would be doing any version to be upgradable? You know what I mean?
Well, that sort of brings me to my point, which is that if they didn't do any sort of upgraded version, I don't think people would really care because
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a year old game. And so them having it's like a bundled together version with updated graphics or whatever on next gen, um, is, I don't know. I definitely get what you're saying. Part of the thing that gets me about it is the fact that if you bought the game and all the DLC, you still don't get the next gen thing, even though you have all the same content that's in
Yeah.
the Ultimate Edition. Like, I
Well,
do think they should
it's
just give
splitting
you the Ultimate Edition for
it's
that. Like
splitting your
that.
community. It's
Mhm,
and even if it's not a multiplayer game, like where it's like Call of Duty, you get these maps, you get these maps, and you can't play together or whatever. Like back in the day, but like it's
mhm,
not like that necessarily. But when you have two people who are like, oh, I got Control and I got Control and I got it first. Oh, I got it later. Oh, we have the same content. Yeah, well, mine can get upgraded to my new Xbox or whatever. It's like, oh,
mhm,
well, that's cool. Like, why does my friend get to do it and I don't? Like, I spent the same amount of
mhm,
money. That's kind of
mhm,
where I go. That like logically, it just doesn't make it's not a smart move. That's all.
mhm,
If you want people to like your brand, that's all.
mhm. Yeah.
It just doesn't give faith for
Um.
the next game to come out. Do you want to buy it right when it comes out? Well, no, I just buy it later, either when it's on sale or when there's a bundle, and I can like, or I'll buy it on PC, and yeah, it's always playable. you know,
Yeah. Yeah. I do kind of wish like. I mean, I feel like maybe it would not go over so well with developers, but it would be nice if they could somehow just standardize that like smart delivery thing where developers just had to kind of give you whatever their next gen version is. Um,
but that they don't have to. Like,
yeah, they don't have to, but like, because smart delivery exists, but if that was just sort of like a mandated thing on their platform, like that would be nice. I don't think it's realistic in any way, shape, or form, but it would be nice.
so that's where like I don't know exactly how smart delivery is different from backwards compatibility, other than it's a term that will cover a few things. Like, okay, your game's playable and your
So,
saves will be able to transfer,
so
and
smart
you can play with
delivery,
each other. Generate.
smart smart delivery basically covers like I remember if you remember from this last generation, there'd be like Call of Duty would come out and then the new consoles would come out and then they'd release Call of Duty again on the new consoles and it had better graphics or whatever. So smart delivery just means you get that second release of Call of Duty or whatever. Or in this case, like Cyberpunk is a great example. You get the next release of Cyberpunk, which is like a different disc. in theory, or it would have been a different disc. Backwards compatibility just means you can play the game you have, and it's not the updated graphical version. It's just the game, and I think they like upscale it or something, or not upscale it, but it can like run at higher resolution frames per second if that's supported.
But see, I feel like
Um,
isn't that just a patch or a download for it?
Not necessarily, because in the case of a lot of things, like the just backwards compatibility version might have, like I said, I might run in 4K at 120 frames per second. Great. Um, I think that's like what Gears 5 is doing. But for something like, say, Cyberpunk, the actual next gen version might have ray tracing, and it might have better particle effects, and it might have a longer draw distance, and it might have all these other things that aren't just simple backwards compatibility features, but actually like in-engine
Yeah,
upgrades.
yeah. But how do
That
they add that?
isn't
How do they give that to you? That's even if you bought a disc.
Um, so yeah, and that's where smart delivery comes in, is it just gives you that second version of the game if you already own the first one. It's basically like similar in if you bought like a game on your Xbox and a game on your computer, and then it would just make those it's basically just giving you for free the second version of the game instead of just letting you play the old version of the game on a new console. It is very weird and hard to explain, but like even for control,
I
like
just
you
don't
still
think it's any
have.
different than backwards compatibility because even if you have the disc of Cyberpunk and you even if you got it this November and then
Mhm,
you got a patch to download that and maybe it's not considered a patch, right? You're re-downloading the whole new game. It's still a digital thing. Your disc is still the old one. Like,
mhm,
there's no reason why uh, PlayStation couldn't just do that too. You know, they go, oh, check your disc or whatever. You know,
mhm,
you have to have your disc in there, and then you get the other install, and then you have to have that disc in maybe just to play that second install. But I don't know if like I think just smart delivery, in my opinion, it's an easier term to understand. Like, okay, this game is being covered because right now there's so many companies or developers coming out with different like, oh, this will
mhm,
progress forward with this and not with that and this and that. And it's like, yeah, it's nice to just have a term that, okay, yes, you can play your saves and your game, the better
mhm.
version later if it's out.
Well,
And
the
it'll go back and
the
forth.
a big thing between backwards compatibility and smart delivery is that even on something like Control, or I know 2K, isn't, or like has weird support for it as well, is you can still just play the old version on like with backwards compatibility, and it'll look nicer on Series X. Like that has nothing to do with smart delivery. That's just like you can play that old
Yeah,
software. It's
yeah,
like um it's basic. Okay, here's a good way of explaining it. It's like if I upgraded my PC, I could still play all my old games. I could just run them at higher settings, and they would look nicer on my new PC, right?
hmm
Um, but if I wanted to play like BioShock, for example, where if I had BioShock before, but now I have a new PC after I didn't build one for like 10 years, and I want to play BioShock Remastered, I would have to rebuy the game because BioShock Remastered has all the fancy new lighting and like new textures and all these things that make it look much better than the original. And what Smart Delivery does is it just gives me BioShock Remastered. I don't have to buy that again. It gives me like the new and updated version of the game for newer hardware.
yeah.
Whereas before, like if that wasn't a thing, I would just have to play the original Bioshock, and I have a nicer computer, like I can run it better. I'll have like faster load times because I have an SSD in it. Like, but it's still just the
So
original
it's
Bioshock, and it's
essentially a
still limited by.
it's a tool for
Yeah,
developers to use in order to give the customer that better version of the game, maybe,
yeah. It's
right?
basically, yeah. It's
Yeah,
basically just a way of giving you the remaster for free, which is
because
nice. Like
yeah,
I appreciate that. I do want the remaster for free. I don't want to rebuy it.
yeah, it's
Um,
still up to the developer, but it's a tool that they could use to say, yes, it's it's we'll just make sure that whoever has this version, the older
mhm,
version, can get this newer one, and then they're
mhm,
done. Check the box or whatever. But
mhm.
all right, I think we beat this up enough.
Yeah.
uh,
Let's talk about
the
those
topic number
Xbox.
5. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go with the new Xbox Series S being shown. A bunch of specs for it. Um, I have most of them in my brain, I think.
Mhm.
So could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I got that. Uh,
Yeah. Well, the
so
big thing is it's basically just a Series X, but with 1080p and a 512 gigabyte SSD. Other than that, like it runs games basically the same. It has all the same features and stuff.
yeah, I think they are trying to focus on parity with the CPU. more than anything,
Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
games were easier to scale down to the Series S. As when you have to scale a game down throttled by your CPU on the system, it's going to be a lot harder to uh, scale that down. Whereas with
Mhm.
the GPU, it's going to be easier to, essentially a slider, right? You're going to be
Mhm.
able to
Mhm.
control that a little easier. Um, but yeah, so it's coming out November 10th along with the Series X. Pre-orders start September 22nd, and it's coming out for, well, what's it for you? What's the price for you? Because it's
Um,
different for me.
$299 US,
Yeah.
and then $499 US for the Series X, which is I'm very happy with those prices. Like that
Yeah.
is um the Series X, I thought it would be $500 or $600, so I'm glad it's the better of those two prices because
It's
six
six
hundred
hundred
dollars
bucks
is
here
a
in
lot.
Canada. It's 600
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Canada, and it's 400 for the S here. So
yeah,
that's a bummer, but
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
um, but yeah, so I'm glad it is not as bad as I thought it might be. Which I mean, that sounds depressing, but I'm genuinely glad. Like, $499 US is a very very fair price. That's the same
Yeah.
price as the Xbox One launched at. That's the same
Yep.
price as the One X launched at. Like that is very fair. The 300 for the Series S though, I think is huge.
That
Like
is amazing.
they
That's
they have pretty much single-handedly won the price war with
is
PS5
there a price war?
with the I mean, well, there is. Like, I mean, cheaper console has an edge, and when you have that
Yeah.
299 option, like that's a really big sell. Like, I know,
It's on
um,
par with the Switch now.
yeah, yeah, totally, and it has ray tracing and an SSD and can load games super fast, and also has all these next gen features. Like in just the same, and it's a really great option for like people who want to get into next gen but don't actually care that much about things like 4K. Like me, I don't really care about 4K. Resolution doesn't matter as much to me. 1080 or 1440p is what it runs at. 1440p is plenty for me. Um, and I think it's a really, really great middle ground option between just not upgrading and spending like $500-$600 on a new console. And
Yeah.
like we'll see, because I know the PS5 has that like discless version, and I don't think that's gonna be anywhere near 300 to be honest. Like
No.
my guess for PS5 prices will be $499 US for the main one, and then like 449, like $450 for the discless. I'll be surprised if it's lower than that. But I think this is a really, really huge step for Xbox. I think this is going to do great things for their brand, especially after not having like Halo Infinite and taking a few hits recently.
Yeah.
Having the like general consensus around that announcement being overwhelmingly positive is really, really huge.
Yeah. So I think having the PS5 at 449, we're just gonna talk US dollars here.
Hmm.
uh having it at 449, I think that makes sense, but I'm more convinced that they gotta go with 499. Match the Xbox Series X. I know
Hmm.
I know that it's not as powerful of a console necessarily, but I think that for their tech with
Oh,
their
I was talking
SSD.
449 for the discless version,
Oh,
and
oh,
then 499 for the version with a disc.
oh, I misheard then. Sorry. Then yes, I agree.
Hmm.
Besides that though, uh I'm really interested, or I think it's really cool and interesting how Xbox is approaching all the different markets, and how,
Hmm.
with specifically talking about the Series S right now, we have a, for you, I guess, $300 console that's basically the same price as a Switch. Now, who has Switches? Lots of people. Who,
Hmm. I know
like,
so many people who like
if
are
you haven't,
barely gamers and they have a Switch.
so what I'm trying to say is, you're an Xbox player and you only play on Xbox, there's a good chance if you have anything else, it's going to be a Switch. And same with
Mhm.
the PlayStation people. They're going to be like, oh, I might get something else. I'm going to get a Switch because you can only play the Switch games, right? Switch or Nintendo has their great library of games. Xbox doesn't quite have that yet. They have a few great ones, and that's it. But with all these games start coming out for Xbox, where they have this Avowed one, they have Fable, they have Halo, and these all turn out to be really great, and you can only play them on Game Pass or on the
Hellblade 2.
Xbox. right? And you're a PlayStation player, you're gonna be like, well, it's only $300. I'm just gonna get an Xbox as well, the discless version. That's fine. Maybe I'll get Game Pass Ultimate as well, and I'm gonna be able to stream my games to my tablet, my phone, or whatever. And then I'm
Mhm.
gonna be able to access all these games for whatever 15 to 25 $20 a month or whatever. And then like just all those different ways, and like or if someone's who's just interested and they go, hey, I just want to like check a bunch of games out on there and see what they're like first, I'll just subscribe for a month on Game Pass, and I'll stream them to my phone, just see what they're like. If I really like it, then
Mhm.
maybe I'll get an Xbox. I just think the
That's yeah.
$300 thing is perfect for the place to get into those PlayStation families for the Xbox brand.
And that's the thing too, is I forgot to mention this. There's a third SKU too. There's XCloud. Like if you don't want to buy an Xbox at all, you can still like have that streaming option. You can play Game Pass games just like you said from your phone or your computer or whatever, even if you're on like a Chromebook or whatever.
Yeah.
Um and that's a totally valid option. Like it's not the best way to play it. The Series S isn't the best way to play it, but that's okay. Like it's good enough for if you're just wanting to try out some stuff and get into that family, it's a really, really solid option.
It's
And
yeah, it's
I
great.
think with those three SKUs and the way that they can just sort of like ease you into the Xbox family, because that's I think the main thing they want. They just want you in the family. They want you spending money in that ecosystem. Um,
They want you to
and
get
I
used to
think
spending money in that ecosystem. Yeah.
yeah. And like I know for me, like I still buy like I have both a PlayStation and an X. Well, I have a PlayStation 4 Pro and a launch Xbox One. So technically, playing games on my PlayStation is a better experience because it's a much more powerful console. Um, but I still usually play games on my Xbox just because like it's the platform I'm more familiar with. Like I'm already in that family. I have Game Pass, so I just download a shit ton of games from that and play it there. Like the the things that they've been doing to make you feel comfortable in that ecosystem and the ways that they're trying to ease you into that ecosystem, I think are really, really smart.
Yeah. They also are adding in EA Play, is it called? So
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, adding EA Play to Game Pass and having another huge library is another huge. I just keep adding
Hmm.
value to that subscription service, and the fact that you can now play a bunch of the different EA Sports games. You can play Dead Space. You can play Mass Effect,
Hmm.
Anthem if you like it, Dragon Age. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff on there, right? Star Wars. So like to have that big library and the fact that you'll be able to potentially use it for XCloud as well, and be able to like I just think that's really cool. Like you mentioned a couple
Hmm.
weeks ago how like the nice thing about XCloud is that you can try a game out without having to download it too, and
Hmm.
I just think that's so true. I think that is a great way for people to try all these different games, and yeah, they might not play the best on your phone. Maybe they'll be a little delayed on all your inputs or something, but it's going to be a great way to go. Okay, now I kind of get what this game's like. Now I can imagine what it would be like if it actually if it worked perfectly, and maybe you
Hmm.
want to
And
download
for
it.
some games, that doesn't matter at all. Like I know you said you're playing Wasteland 3.
Yeah.
That seems like the kind of game where if you're not into that genre, like both of us, you know, and you're taking a risk, like don't even necessarily want to download it. That's a game that will play perfectly fine with like over XCloud because it's a tactical RPG. Like that's not really you don't need that like Twitch like 1 millisecond input lag
And it'd be
like
so
you're
good with
playing
touch
Apex or
controls.
something.
If it had touch controls,
Yeah,
it would
yeah.
work perfect. There would be no issues with touch controls. Oh,
Like that's why I wish remote play actually worked well on PS4. Like I remember when I was playing Persona 5, I tried playing on my phone and like, man, this sucks. Like this is a horrible way to play this game. But like if the streaming actually worked half decent, like that would have been great cuz I mean it's Persona, like there's no need to have any sort of like even if it has like a second input lag, it's still playable cuz it's a turn-based RPG.
mhm.
But yeah, no, it's I those announcements made me very excited for what Xbox is doing this next gen. And it furthers their strategy of just trying to get people in, making it affordable, having great value. The like $25 a month Xbox All Access plan I think is really brilliant because it
Yep.
lets people who maybe even for that $300 can't drop that. But $25 a month you get the console, you get Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and it's cheaper than just buying those outright. I think that's really, really, really smart.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you can, like you said, buy get it for $25 a month, and Game Pass Ultimate's already like 15. So,
Hmm.
and you're paying for two
Yeah.
years, and then they got you using their service for 2 years, and then once
Hmm.
2 years is up, do you think that someone who's been using it for 2 years is going to just go, I don't want any of these games anymore? Like, I think there's a
Yeah,
pretty good
yeah.
chance people are gonna. I think the retention after that will be high. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so I think we beat that one to death as well now. Don't have anything else from me. Maybe we could just wrap up the show. We're a little bit shorter than normal. Aiming for
Well,
normal
what you
hour,
want to talk
but
about what we've been playing? I don't think we've
I've
done
just
that
been
yet.
playing Wasteland 3 still. I don't have a ton of time, but when I have time, I'm playing that. Uh, Still fun. I wish it had touch controls, like I just said, on the phone. If I could play
Hmm.
that through Ultimate and streaming and play it on the phone with the touch screen, it would be so perfect. So perfect for that. Turn based, being able to just like everything you do in that game is either clicking, right clicking, or dragging. So like
Hmm.
there's no
It
reason.
worked pretty well, yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Um, yeah, so I the last few days definitely haven't been able to play much. Like I said, my all my consoles have been disconnected. I just plugged them back in like a half hour ago or a half hour before we started.
Mm.
So I can't start playing again. But before that, I was playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 remake, which
Oh,
I really like it. I never played any of the originals, so I don't have any real nostalgia for the series, but I know people were saying this is like one of the best remakes ever made. So I was like, okay, like I'm in. I'll try it out. I like skate culture. I like that aesthetic.
yeah.
Um, and it's really, really good. I I like it a lot. It definitely is good, even separated from the nostalgia. And I think like one of the things it does really, really well is modernizing not just the game from like a purely gameplay mechanics perspective, but also modernizing just like kind of modernizing skate culture in a way. Like there's a lot of things it does to make it more just fitting in 2020. Like it has in like the creative skater thing, it has like non-binary gender options. It has lots of options for people who aren't just like white dudes. Like it has these things that are really, really great, like and inclusive.
That's cool.
It has the first trans skater in the series, which is awesome. I remember hearing a story about one of the moves that was named after a skater is called like the mute slide or something, and then they changed the name to be named just after the guy because he's not mute. Like it doesn't really make sense for it to be called that. So the fact that they're
Mm.
modernizing just not just like the mechanics, but the actual like more meta stuff around the game is really, 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 really cool to me. I think it's great. And then yeah, the actual mechanics, like it feels great. I mean, I don't need to say that the game's very popular for a reason. Soundtrack's awesome. It looks great. I've been playing more Ultra Kill, which I was talking about last week. I fucking adore that game. Like the the
Still
more
going
I
on that
play
one,
it, the
hey?
more I love it.
Yeah.
I finished all the content that's in it right now.
Mhm.
It's an early access, so the developers just releasing it like act by act, basically. So Act One I've completed. I'm waiting on Act Two very, very impatiently. Um, I so my game of the year the like list this year has been like Half-Life Alex on top.
Oh, do we want to get into this now? Maybe we should do this
Okay,
as a
well
good
I'm
topic.
just I'm just I'm
Okay.
just like
Okay.
Half-Life
Yeah.
Alex, Last of Us Part 2 and then Doom Eternal at number 3.
Mm.
But I seriously think this is a better game than Doom Eternal. Like as far as one of my favorite games this year, this is solidly up there. Like it has the best boss fights I've ever played, or not ever played. The boss fights I've played since probably Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which is such an insanely high bar. Like the boss fights in that game is platinum at their best. It's insane. Like I don't want to spoil it in case people play it. I just
Yeah,
like
don't do that.
I cannot like it's so good. It's so good. Like the environment design is just off the chain. Like it's so weird and it breaks so many conventions that the genre usually has. Things like like when there's like a big like chain gun in games like that, they always like you right click and then it like spins up that's like its alternate fire. Maybe it has like a big like ultra fire ability or whatever. But in here it's alternate fires that has like this ball that it shoots that attracts bullets to it and then like explodes and shoots like nails and stuff everywhere.
Hmm.
And like it just has these really really interesting takes on established things in it, and it feels so different from things like Doom or Quake or what was the one that came out recently, Dusk. um it's I just cannot recognize or recommend this game enough. It is it's just so good.
So it's good.
um
You like it.
it's so good. I remember I was texting my partner while playing it, just like all caps, like 20 messages, like what the like this just keeps getting better. How the fuck does this game keep getting better? Like one of the most insanely cool boss fights I've ever played. It's yeah, cannot recommend that game enough. Yeah, I don't think I have an indie game recommendation this week just because I haven't had much time to play and really
I
explore
don't
with
think
that
it needs
stuff.
to be a weekly thing, but this is a
Mhm,
platform where we can bring up something that we find really
mhm,
interesting that we don't
mhm.
think enough people have heard of, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's
My
really
my
cool
my
about
pick
this.
my pick for this week is Ultra Kill
Again,
again.
perfect.
Recommending it, but this time twice as strong. If you didn't listen to me last episode to play it, you should really listen to me now.
I
Um
agree.
and
Yep.
I've been replaying Act 1 now on their like harder difficulty, and it's just ramping the fun up even more for me. Like now that I understand the mechanics pretty
Yeah.
well, being able to like really just go all out, like I'm physically sweating sometimes after playing that game for like a while. Like it is
Well,
intense
it's
at
just
that
been
hard
hot lately.
difficulty. Yeah, that too. But like and it's this beautiful thing too because it's such like a simple game from an aesthetic standpoint
Mhm.
that it loads instantly. Like there's no loading screens in the entire game. And so like one of my big turnoffs in Doom Eternal as far as playing it at like really high levels goes is whenever you die you have to wait like 30 seconds or whatever to jump back in. And that just sort of like I don't know. It like when I feel like I'm wasting time on harder difficulties, I'm less inclined to actually do that, which is why like that Souls formula kind of doesn't click for me as much. But with this, it's that Celeste sort of thing where you die and you jump right in. Like there's no
See,
loading time or anything. You just
yeah,
die, boom,
I
boom,
think
boom.
that
You'll play a level like 20 plus times, but and then eventually it all just clicks enough, and then you can beat it, and it feels so good.
yeah, I think that's a pacing thing. Because when you have
Hmm.
like games like Doom, I haven't. That's the only one I've played. But like when you have games that are fast paced like that, and then it ends, and then you're sitting there.
Yeah, it
Okay.
just kills that like adrenaline rush that you
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Um. Yeah. For me, I'm planning on actually today doing a bit of either streaming or recording a little later. I've been at work just thinking about a lot of GameCube games and specifically
Mm.
Mario Sunshine and a whole bunch, like pretty much every Zelda up to like Twilight Princess available on GameCube.
Mhm.
Just about. And I've just been like having a huge desire to play a bunch of old GameCube games, uh, and just like hear the music, kind of play them again. Just like I
Mhm.
want some happiness and some like little Nick joy, I guess, again. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just start like not really any plan of like 100%ing anything or like not necessarily rushing, but also kind of just like going through at my normal Nick pace and just kind of like I'm just gonna go through this game, then this game, and then this game, and just start going through a bunch of these that I've been wanting to play for a while, and I keep putting off for no reason other than made a priority. So that's something I'm planning on playing soon, but not any indie stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. If you do that, Star Fox Assault, I'm not sure if you've played it.
I don't
That's
have it.
like it's it's yeah, actually I don't know if it's good or not. I haven't played that since I was like a child, so it could be bad for all I know. I liked a lot of really shitty games when I was younger. But that's one of my favorites from that era.
What I have here. I kind of want to play some Mario Sunshine. I want to play some Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness. I'll probably stick around a bit with Smash Bros. Melee again, and
Oh, of course.
definitely Zelda 4, Wind Waker. Got the like Ocarina of Time and Master Quest collection, so I kind of want to play the
Ooh.
Master Quest version because I've only done that
Wow.
once on the 3DS. That'd be. Then I got well, I guess Majora's Mask on the collector. Uh,
Mhm.
but I really want to play through those. Twilight Princess. There'll be a lot of Zelda, and then my brother has Metroid Prime 1 and 2, so I want to play through
That's a good
that.
one, yeah.
He's borrowing. I have that trilogy collection for the and I
Mhm.
want to take that back at some point and play through all three of those with the control. That was so nice.
Mhm.
Uh, but I'll play the first two on. Yeah, that just kind of like that's gonna take a lot of time to go through all those, but
Yeah, seriously.
I really want to play through them again, and I think they are shorter than I remember them. Like I think if
Mhm.
I play through some of these games now, it wouldn't take as long. Like maybe Mario would take a while, just 'cause you have to collect enough stars, shine sprites. But I don't know. I don't even think I'd finish Pokemon. Jump into it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Yeah,
Awesome.
let's
Yeah.
end the show for now. We're much a couple minutes under an hour, but perfect in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, so for everyone watching or listening, thank you. Our show is available on Spotify and iTunes. If it's on more things, I'm just not educated yet. But yeah, that's the two places to find us. Screen peeking both of them. And yeah, Ziggy, do you have anything to plug here before we sign off?
Um, the I mentioned this last time or last episode, but the like Portal 2 stream I was talking about, the edit for that is up on my YouTube channel, just Ziggy Hickson.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch that. I might be doing another episode of like I might be going through the campaign a little bit more today. Um we'll see on that. But yeah, just follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/Ziggy Hickson, and find me, follow me there. If you're watching this, you likely already follow me, but might as well plug anyway. I think that's
You
it
never
for
know.
me.
Okay, great.
It's true. That's true.
Well, I think the whole point is we want people who to start watching uh,
That's true.
episodes, and uh, for me, like I'm super open to constructive criticism of any kind. So I like I'm having a blast just trying to work on the art for if you're watching the YouTube version, just like having the little frames around here and the background animation and all the other stuff, and like just trying to make something interesting to look at but not distracting. So
Mhm.
like that kind of stuff's fun, and yeah, if anyone has any constructive criticism, comment. And with that, have a great rest of your day. Stay healthy out there. Bye.
Bye.